I'd like to introduce the people behind Integrated Executive Health, Dr. Nathan Francis and Mr. David Deane-Spread. Nathan, David, I want you to start by just introducing yourselves. Tell us who you are.
Sure, Peter. I'll speak about myself first, and Nathan can do that. I began life as a military police officer and then was headhunted into the Narcotics Bureau. I ran covert operations. I led teams, and then eventually I moved into commerce and was a leader in commerce and ran a number of businesses. And I then became very passionate about the lack of leadership that I was seeing in commerce. I was very passionate about the ineffectiveness of executives who were meaning to do their best, but because they weren't really trained, they were very good at what they did and they got promoted and then became executives by dint of their expertise at other in operational and technical areas. I saw that it wasn't working and I wanted to do something about it.
Nathan, your background, who are you?
Well, I've been a medical practitioner now for about 35 years. And initially I went into the traditional sort of format of medicine in rural general practice. And during my time there, I realized from seeing some patients that the traditional format of medicine just didn't have all the answers. And I then had some certain life-changing experiences myself and realized that you needed a more integrated approach to some of these complex medical issues. I then, even though I did the traditional degrees, I then decided to do acupuncture medicine, and I realized that that wasn't the answer at all. And I accidentally worked in a men's clinic where I saw a lot of men's problems due to broken marriages and failed business experiences. And that led me to move on to nutritional medicine, environmental medicine, and finally anti-aging medicine, which allowed me to take a whole total integrative approach to a common problem.
Two quite disparate backgrounds. Mm-hmm. What brought you both together? How did you get together? What's the story?
Well, we've known each other for 30 odd years. Nathan was his wife was having a baby pretty much at the same time as my wife. Oh. So we met each other in those circumstances. And then I became actually a patient of Nathan's, and I've helped Nathan through my type of work in his business side of his practice. And that went on for years and years and years, and we socialised together. But later in life, we were exercising together. And we kept on talking about the problem with healthcare, that it's actually not healthcare, it's disease care, and that the benefits and the investment is best and cheapest, if you like, if we deal with preventative issues rather than curative issues. And how are we going to do that? And Nathan then went down his path of expertise, and I went down my path of expertise. And then in 2010, Nathan said, David, it's time that we brought it together. And so we've come together and we're providing this service.
Who's it for?
This service is specifically for busy, remote professionals, executives, and that includes many business farmers who are out in the boondocks with massive workloads, exposure to toxicity through the chemicals of agriculture, and the hard hours and the long hours and the stress of seasonal uncertainty.
And if I may add there, it's not just remote, being in a remote environment, but also being remote in a city environment.
Yes.
Where they just haven't got the opportunity or the time to go and get that total health care. It's only by getting that total health care will they be able to achieve that total performance. And often this isolated, if you want to put them, remote executives in the city offices can only visit the practitioner last thing at night or on a Saturday afternoon, usually when there's an emergency, and which gives very little time for that total integrated package.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Given the nature of our society, it appears to me that you're talking about men more than anything, older men. Or are you talking about women as well?
Oh yes, what led me to this was I saw this partners or spouses of executives, and often they were executives themselves, working on a part-time basis, running businesses on a part-time, and they would come to me and I would optimize their health, and they would often comment they wished that their partners could also achieve that same optimization of their health. But those partners were so busy, either traveling from state to state or working long hours, and didn't have that opportunity. And so that conceived this idea that we should have this ability to communicate with those partners through IEH sort of format.
Yeah. But I also think that we're certainly, whilst men will be a large number of the membership,
Yes.
it is available to women as well. We've got a surging situation now of women coming into executiveship.
That's
They are going to be feeling the stresses of that, and they're going to need the same support and help, both medically and executive performance-wise.
Yes, I'm already seeing that now. With we're not talking about top-level executives; we're even talking about middle management,
Absolutely.
and professionals who come from both males and females. That
We now
that
have
comes to
a context. We understand the background of this. So how do you help them? How are you going to help these people? What do you offer?
Okay. For both of us, the service is about giving them access to the expertise that we have, no matter where they are, and no matter often timing has to be convenient for everyone, but they've got a huge range of opportunity and they can select that. It's all online. They have secure and private video access to us, either via tablet, smartphone, PC or laptop. It's secure and it's private, it's encrypted. And the opportunity then is to have face-to-face interaction with us. That's the beauty of it.
We're talking about video links.
Video, yes. So when they become a member of the site, they get access to the software, which they can just download for nothing, and it goes into their system.
What proof do you have that it's going to work? What can you offer in the way of reassurance that it's going to be worth the time of a busy executive?
I feel that the executives or their partners have already realized that they're not performing optimally, either at work or at a personal level. And they realize they're being trapped with the lack of opportunity to go and seek that professional help. Because the only time they're free is through after hours or at an emergency level. So I feel that based on my experiences so far, the executives and middle management will realize that here's an opportunity where they can access that professional help that we offer at a time that's convenient to them, from anywhere they're working at that time. So, and they'll be able to have an hour or two of our time, having that in-depth conversation and in-depth assessment of their health. And I feel, from my experience so far, I feel it will work, and there's an opportunity there.
From my side of things, there's definitely, it's already working face-to-face. The sad bit is I've got a CEO in Ghana, an Australian, who wants access to me, but it's very hard to do that. It's inconvenient for me to fly to Ghana or for him to fly to Perth. I've got a senior executive in Kalgoorlie, who I met only the other day because he happened to be in town on other aspects, and we're struggling with getting the right access. Now, when we do work with our clients, they get amazing results, and that's why we're offering the service, because we already know that face to face we can help them and do help them. That's what we do now. Putting the video access into place will work as well. We know that.
Just to sheer coincidence, this morning I did see one of the executives who actually is working in the Middle East.
Yes.
Who's working from, he told me, from 7 in the morning to about 9 at night.
Yes. Yes.
His wife already sees me here, and he's seen me before he got transferred to the Middle East.
Yeah.
And he says the only time, he asked me how often should I see him, and I said, well, I can, how about once a year? He says, I'd like to see you more often, but I can't. And I've sort of optimized his health, and he wants to maintain that health.
Yes.
And so this is a great opportunity through this service
Well,
where he can access me, every 3 months if he needs
more
to.
frequently. More frequently. And it's their call.
It's clear to me what Nathan offers, because he's a doctor, and a
Yes.
good one.
Yes.
What's not so clear to me
Yes.
is where you fit into this and what your contribution
Sure.
to your client is.
Sure. Executives, most of the time, are leaders. They have a leadership function. Professionals have the same situation. So we're talking about accountants and lawyers and engineers and surveyors and people who are professionals in the strict sense of the word. They are always supervising other people, coming on, new graduates and para-professionals as well. That means that their biggest problem becomes people. It is not the operational or the technical issues that bother them. It is always the people issues, people's behaviour, people unacceptably behaving, people unacceptably performing. And these people who are now executives haven't had the skill set given to them to deal effectively with unacceptable behaviour, unacceptable performance in ways that enhance and maintains trust and respect. They'll either come in too soft, or they'll come in too hard, or they'll avoid it altogether because they're not really sure how to go about it. And there they are, they've got an immediate problem, two people fighting in the business, or unacceptable behaviour taking place, and what they don't want to do is to rock the boat or blow up the whole situation. They end up having to hesitate, and they end up being stressed themselves. They end up being really concerned about it. It keeps them awake at night. And now they're either remote physically, or they're remote because they're just too locked into what they're doing, and there's no one to ask. And the higher you go up the ladder, the lonelier it is, and the less people you have to rely on. And that's the service that I'm providing right now.
Clearly, we're treading in an area of enormous sensitivity.
Well, Peter, it's worse than that. It is sensitive on the one hand, but when an executive or the leadership team or the professional is stressed, as many of them are, and we both can attest to that, we see it every day, what's not understood is the cascading of that through the whole of their workplace. It rolls downhill. It's a law of gravity. And it cascades into the workplace, and we've got, right now in Australia, we've got a largely disengaged workforce. It's very, very stressed, and we've got productivity problems, the big ones. In fact, there's a massive government push on it. Medicare in 2008 did a survey, to look at the impact of workplace stress, and it's costing Australia nearly $30 billion annually. And the cause of most of it is that executives and leaders aren't getting the support that they really need. That's what we do.
Can I just extend that to the medical side?
Yes.
One of the most common presentations I see every day is fatigue.
Yeah.
And you call it burnout or stress. Let's say it's the fatigued patient. Now, that patient needs to be worked up, whether that fatigue is due to poor sleep, sleep apnea, low or high iron, low or high B12, vitamin D, calcium, thyroid, hormones.
Yep.
And then we look at the adrenal fatigue, the burnout.
Yep.
But on the other side of the coin, it's so easy to label them as depressed or anxious.
Yes.
But you've got to get all those medical factors sorted out.
Absolutely.
And then there's other factors like their gut, their digestion, their nutrition, toxicity. Then we can look at the brain chemistry, which is depression, motivation, drive.
Yep.
So this is where that fatigued, stressed executive needs to be totally worked up,
Absolutely.
both from a medical point of view and then from a performance point of view. The two marries and
They marry
interplay,
together
yeah.
really well, because one of the things that is really affected and impacts on the medical side as well is a term that I'm going to use called attitudinal competence, and that is one's ability to select their very best attitude for whatever's happening now, and either keep it or adjust it according to the change of the situation. And that's what I specialise in. If you Google attitudinal competence, the search engines say I'm the global leader in that. I wrote the book on it. I use that now for people like the SAS Regiment, a number of utilities, mining companies, oil and gas, and any high performance, high risk area. That work goes into that. Now, I want executives to have attitudinal competence. Even the attitude to seek the help of somebody like Nathan. Even the attitude to be able to say, well, I'm stressed, what do I need to do now? And know how to do that. And it's not rocket science. It can be learnt. Attitudinal competence can be learned readily. And that's part of what we offer.
Okay, so give me your vision, your long-term vision for this enterprise. What are you after in the long term?
I think my long-term vision from our client's point of view is to provide them this platform and opportunity where they can optimize their health by seeking up-to-date assessments and optimization of their health. And because of that optimization, they can then also optimize their performance at work and their relationships, both at work and at a personal level. So my vision is to have this total integrated approach to executive performance and health. And I feel that's lacking at the moment. Yeah.
I share that vision in exactly the same way, and my focus, of course, is on the attitudes and their behaviour as a leader, as a professional executive. You can't separate them. No. They belong together, and at the moment, that's not readily available. That's why we're doing it.
Finally, gentlemen, what is it, in a specific sense, that you are offering your clients?
Peter, first and foremost, of course, it's a membership site only. The primary reason they'll be doing that is to have video access to us in a convenient way and secure, as I've said before. But in addition to that, they also have access to our specific articles that deepen and the information and the knowledge and the support that is available to them. We give them very current, cutting-edge news that covers both areas of what Nathan and I do. We will be delivering podcasts that are available only for members. We'll be delivering on-demand webinars for their education, for their own nutritional health and executive performance and leadership, and the very how-to business. And all of that will be combined, and they won't be paying anything extra for that. That's all there for them. The other thing that we are doing and planning, in fact, right now, will be periodically, we'll be running special members-only workshops and retreats, so that they can actually do some networking, and people learn very much from each other, particularly leaders and executives and professionals. They're really good at learning from one another. We're going to provide that opportunity as well.
And in addition to all those things, from my point of view, the member will have access to detailed information about nutrition. For example, which fish oil, how much fish oil, which vitamins to take. So they're going to have the latest information, evidence-based information on all those topics, in addition to all the latest scientific articles that will be on the site.
By definition, we're talking about people who have very little available time. So what they need is efficiency in
That's
the
right.
way anything is delivered to them. Can
Yes.
you guarantee that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. It's online, it's available to them, they'll have their own account, their own password, it's on demand whenever they want.
Nathan, I'm sure you must have plenty of stories to tell. Can you give me some examples of the sort of cases that present to you?
One case that comes easily to mind is a gentleman in his 50s whose business is suffering from the financial crisis. He presents with tiredness, depression. He can't cope and this has led to his broken marriage and his isolation from his children. And as a result, his work performance and his personal life has been going down. He's resorted to drink, and he's put on a lot of weight. And as a consequence, he's snoring heavily. So he presents, in fact, his naturopath referred him to me with a possible low testosterone level. But through taking his history, I realized his major issues were his sleep apnea, which was the consequence of his obesity. And because of that, he was nodding off, sleeping, not able to cope with his business. His isolation from his broken marriage had further to his depression. And because of his heavy drinking, he had a fatty liver, which caused him to have a raised iron, and that further aggravated his fatigue. So his problem was not his low testosterone. His problem was everything else. The business crisis, which led on to his broken marriage, isolation from his family, and his poor lifestyle. So I made him recognize that the core reason to fix was his lifestyle. Because it's only by reducing his weight, reducing his alcohol intake, his obesity would improve, his sleep apnea would improve, he'd have more energy during the day to cope with his business and his failed marriage. So by managing this patient, I actually did all the tests to prove to him that he had positive sleep apnea, he had a raised high iron, he had abnormal liver function tests, and he could see from these results that he had to make this lifestyle change if he wanted to resurrect his business and he wanted to keep seeing his son. Because at the moment he was falling asleep on the road, which made him very dangerous to go and visit his son. So he could see that he had to make those lifestyle changes to improve his business performance and his own personal life. So that's just a simple example of a business owner who was presented as fatigue.
And have you been able to help him?
Oh yes, he's made a dramatic change, because I told him that if he wanted to drive and pick up his son, he had to have his sleep apnea fixed, because otherwise he'd lose his license. And that was the trigger for him to make that lifestyle change.
David, a
Yes.
story, an anecdote that illustrates the sort of person you're able to help and how.
Yes, certainly. The CEO of a company, which I can't obviously name, had a real problem. After the GSC, sales were impacted. Key staff left. He couldn't replace them easily, and he didn't know quite what to do. The remaining staff were nervous and uncertain. Productivity went down the tubes. He was really, really stressed. I sat with him in a coaching scenario, and I asked him a number of questions about the things that he's done that were really effective already in the past. And I said, now, I had this conversation, a very structured conversation with him about how he was able to take from his successes and adapt them to the current situation. What could he do to attract the right people? What could he do now to help his people feel confident about their future? What are the things that he needed to do? And most of all, does he not understand the stress that he's feeling is not caused by the situation. It's caused by what he's thinking about the situation. And he's doing the stress, he's causing the stress himself. And so we had a good look at that. And we had a number of conversations. And look, it touched into his family life. It touched into the way he was brought up by his father, and how his stress reactions were in fact modelled from his father. And we got him to have a fresh look at the opportunities, not at the problems and the challenges and the fears, the what-ifs. We got him to look at the positive approaches that he's had in the past and bring those to bear. We got him to relieve his stress by thinking about what already works and what he's already good for, what he's really good at. And within 3 months, the whole business had turned around because of his attitude. Because his attitude is infectious. He's a leader. And his stress was being picked up by his people. You can't hide those things. And it's having a huge effect on the business. And so when he came in more positively with some constructive, let's do this, what about that, being inclusive in his conversation, really coaching and inspiring his own people by first of all inspiring himself, motivating himself, by thinking down the right track, made the difference. Because at the end of the day, the people in the business are the experts about that business. It's the way they're thinking about it and the way they're behaving towards it where the help is needed. And very quickly, there was another one which interacts very much with what Nathan and I do together, and why it's really a good example. I have this client, a long-term client, who came to me with extreme stress from the workplace and a broken marriage. He was in his mid-30s, pretty fit guy, but he had these headaches. And he assumed that it was stress-induced. Remember that?
That's right. Yeah.
And I had a look at him. I said, look, what have you done about this? Because the headaches didn't seem right to me. But I'm not a doctor. So I asked him, so have you been to your doctor? And yes, he's prescribed me antidepressants and stuff for my stress. I said, look, the level of stress that you're experiencing through work and your marriage, I just don't believe is enough to cause the kind of headaches you're talking about. Will you do me a favour and go and see my doctor? My client went to see Nathan, and Nathan helped to diagnose that he had a brain tumour. That brain tumour has now been sorted, and he's back on the road. He's fully recovered. That's a great story.
Yeah, that's a totally integrated approach.
That's fully integrated. It's fully integrated.